Having first joined the force during a tumultuous time when race divided the city and its police, Boston's soon-to-be top cop just made history as the first African-American to hold the post.
Many calls from my mother worried because of the atmosphere at the time betwixt the communities and BPD. But if you want change, be the change. That's why I became a police officer.
That was Boston Police Commissioner in waiting, Willie Gross, talking yesterday about when he joined the department in 1985. Next month, he'll assume the post outgoing Commissioner Bill Evans has held for nearly 5 years. Evans announced yesterday at City Hall he was leaving the force for a job at Boston College. And today, while making his final appearance on our radio show, Boston Public Radio, with me and Marjorie Egan, he called Gross an obvious choice.
It was sort of a no-brainer. I think we're the best department in the nation. And it's not like we need a change agent to come in and move anything. We just got to keep continuing what we're doing, and Chief Gross is going to do that.
Is Evans right, or is a change agent what's needed? Joining me are Tanisha Sullivan, president of the NAACP's Boston branch. Good to see you. Jamarhl Crawford, community activist and the editor of Blackstonian. Jamarhl, it's good to see you, too.
Thank you.
We don't need a change. We just need to stay the course, is essentially what Bill Evans said. Is he right?
Well, I think it is important for us to pause and acknowledge that we have experienced, or we will experience, a historic moment in the city of Boston. In 2018, we will celebrate the first person of color to serve as police commissioner, a black man who grew up in the city of Boston. We need to acknowledge that.
Sounds like there's a however at the end
well,
of the sentence.
That being said, I do think that we still need to recognize that there is much work that has to be done. We are living in a city where, according to a report by Mass Inc. that was released earlier this year, 16% of black residents, black voters living in the city of Boston do not feel safe in their neighborhoods. That's a problem.
Bill, Adrian Walker, in a column that went up on the Globe's website about an hour or so ago, said that Evans was an outstanding commissioner. Was he?
I think Commissioner Evans did a good job at focusing on community policing as a strategy, as an anti-violence strategy. But there, again, still work needs to be done in that space.
Stay the course or change agent there, Jamarhl?
Change agent. And
why? What needs to be changed?
Much. The discipline, the hiring, the firing, the promotion, all those things that happen internally, but certainly community policing here and the relationship with the communities of color in the city is fractured. And we've seen that time and time again on everything, every issue that's arisen.
Can we work backwards for a second? Do you not think that this police department has made greater advances on the community policing front than virtually any major city department in this country, even if it's imperfect?
Well, no, I'm not ready to do that. So for me, I'm not one who is ready to rest and say we're doing such a great job. We need to look at what we're not doing well and then fix it. So, certainly, managing large events like the marathon or the Pops, the Boston Pops of the 4th of July. Boston police are excellent at that. I think everybody will give them that. Where they're not so good is their interactions with young black and Latino men in communities of color, which is given by all the reports have indicated that.
And so why does that matter? That matters because we have significant violence in our city, gun violence in our city, and on either side of that gun are young men of color who are losing their lives.
Evans says shootings are down pretty dramatically, homicides up modestly. Does that not persuade you that we're making progress? No?
Homicides being up is never something that we should be encouraged
by. Well, he's not saying
by.
It should be celebrated, but there's a modest increase as compared to last year. So, what would you, by the way, is Gross, the appointment of the first African American in a majority minority city, does that allay some of your concerns, or is your attitude, show me that you're willing to address the problems?
Absolutely, and I think that
Which?
No, it does not allay any of my concerns, and actually I think that that's what the thought process was. And so what Commissioner Evans just said was telling. We don't need to change any here because we're doing so. That type of attitude does not bode well for the community. It's not an attitude that says we need to look and fix everything that we find, whatever. So it seems as though it's very dismissive. And the appointment of this African-American prominent figure on the police force, I think, is seen just as that, an appeasement. And if we see what happened with Obama, there was a negative Obama effect where it's like, okay, look, black people were complaining. You got a black president, nothing to see here.
So do you think he was appointed because of the color of his skin rather than the quality of his work over the past couple decades?
That's my belief, yes. And
you
I think
do?
The reported things that have been reported in the press all indicate that. They've all made mention of that.
Well, how about your assessment of Gross's time on the, forget what the press has said, how would you assess his time in the police force?
Great guy, a good cop, but I don't like the idea of him as commissioner, and there's
Why?
multiple reasons. One, I don't like someone from inside the ranks, rank and file, becoming the commissioner. You've been there since 1985, you have allegiances and enemies, and now you have the power to act on those. I think what we needed to do was do a nationwide search, bring in somebody from elsewhere that is not so entrenched in these politics.
Do you agree with that?
I do want to push back just a little bit. So I do think, again, it is important to acknowledge the historic moment, while at the same time acknowledging that it's not enough to just put someone of color into a position. What we will be looking for is evidence to demonstrate that this is not an appointment that's meant to appease communities of color, is whether or not Chief Gross, soon to be Commissioner Gross, actually has a voice at the table. Will he be able to put forth a true vision for where the Boston Police Department
Is your
needs to
point
go?
that Mayor Walsh is the de facto commissioner of the Boston Police?
Well,
Is that
we'll
what you're saying?
see. We will see. I mean, ultimately, of course, the mayor is responsible for everything that happens in the city. But when you identify people to serve in these critical roles, they need to be allowed to lead.
Can you correct me if I'm wrong? You the NAACP, put out a report literally, I think, hours or a day before Marjorie Egan and I did the final mayoral debate between Councilor Jackson and Mayor Walsh. If I remember, one of the major criticisms of the police was the stop-and-go thing with body cameras.
Right.
We asked Evans about this today. He says, I am all in. He says the mayor is all in. There's $2 million in the budget as seed money. Are you smiling, meaning that's BS, or what are you smiling?
No, I mean, Commissioner Evans being all in is really a moot point at this point,
Why?
right? Because he's out. The question is, where does, Chief Gross stand on it? And I will say
Well,
this.
there's an article in the paper yesterday saying the Boston, whatever they're called, the Boston
Police Camera
Action Team.
Yes, and so on that
praised
point,
Gross, we should say, for those who didn't read it.
So I was going
Sorry.
there. So on that point, all indications is that Chief Gross has been a supporter of the full implementation of body cameras. Now, let's see what a Commissioner Gross says.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think their support of the body cams, too, is also based on the fact that nothing big happened. So if what had happened is what police feared in the beginning was that they're going to get busted and, caught in that gotcha moment, but it hasn't happened. And in fact, it's helped them actually arrest more people. It's helped them on gun cases and all that. So now they're like, oh, this is actually helping us. No big deal.
We only have 30 seconds left. What should be number one on Gross's agenda when he takes over next week?
Community relations and community policing, and establishing himself as a strong leader that's ready to tackle these issues like a civilian review board.
10 seconds.
Public safety has to be number one. We've got to shore up safety in our neighborhoods and make sure that people feel safe in their neighborhoods.
Thank you so much for your thoughts. Really
Thank
good
you.
to see you, Jamarhl. Thanks so much.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
All
your
right.
time.